Yeah. Woo!
Hey,
That's delicious. Hey, welcome to Fantasy Sports Addicts Anonymous. My name's Tom.
Hey, Tom.
And I'm a fantasy sports addict, joined tonight, of course, by Cubby. How you doing?
Doing well. Was off today and dreading going back to work. Hold on a second.
Okay. Dreading going back to work. He's already back to work. But no, he had a little holiday day. And we did not get any mock drafting done today, although we have asked for a slight hiatus, sabbatical on the mock drafting, I think because, well, we've had a lot of mock drafting. But we're going to just get right back on it in about a week or two. Super Bowl weekend seems to be the appropriate place to get back on the mock draft wagon, does it not? And with that, we thought we'd take a look at the updated ADPs on NFBC. And hopefully you all can see this. Take a look, have a peek. It's a gander skis. This is, again, the top 100 ADP on NFBC. And we're just going to go through. There's been a few risers, fallers, all that whole hootenanny. I'm just waiting for Cubby to get back into the broadcast, but we'll see what we got here in the next few minutes. If not, we may revisit this again another time. But what we're going to do is just go ahead and peel through each round, probably 10, 12 picks at a time. And hopefully that's enough for everyone to kind of get familiarized and acquainted with the ADPs. Now, this isn't like overall rankings or anything. This is just kind of where, managers are selecting these players. So you can use that as a guide or de facto default rankings if you like. But right now, 1 through 10, obvious here is Acuna, Trout, Yelich, Betts, Bellinger, Cole, Lindor, DeGrom, Bregman, Turner. I think this is the first time, at least in a long time, that we've seen, 2 pitchers in the top 10. That's not usual. It's pretty fascinating there. Garrett Cole, 6. A lot of people don't mind shocking the world in mock drafts. It's kind of that sexy, ooh, look what I did in the middle of the first round. But if you were to pull that off somehow, it might work. I'm not going to say you can't do that and win a league. I just don't want to select a pitcher that early unless it's a pretty shallow league. And, of course, DeGrom, 8. Still not looking at that. But, like in previous years, we've seen Lindor in the 3 to 5 range. Now he's bumped to 7-ish. Bregman, 9-ish. Turner. Now there's some talk that Turner's going to be drafting out of not drafting, but hitting out of the 3-hole. That's a nice place for him to be, the 3-hole, which takes his leadoff position, gives it to Robles. And how do you not like that if you're a Robles guy? I don't have any shares of, at least dynasty shares of Robles. So I may try to get a redraft share or 2 of Robles. Turner, though, the one dynasty share I have, I hope he does hit somewhere around 3. And Story. I mean, you could make a lot of case. We've talked about this before. There's a lot to be said for Story being ranked higher than he is with that power speed combination. Soto, you're going to get 30 to 40 home runs. A nickel or a dime bag worth of steals. It's pretty good. But he has dropped considerably in the preseason. Then, of course, your Nolans, your Verlanders, your Freemans, your Mad Maxes, Walker Buehler, Tatis, J-Ram, and Rendon. In that group, honestly, of the 10 to 20 players, if I'm looking to put two together somewhere towards the tail end of first round of the draft or something like that, I'm probably going to look at wrapping Fernando Tatis with something. That's just a personal preference. Like if I could do a Tatis, maybe a J-Ram. That's a lot of speed. It's a lot of speed, some good power. But I think Tatis is slightly undervalued here at 18. And then, of course, moving along, 20 to 30, your Rendon, Devers, JD, Just Dongs, Clevenger, Flaherty. Here's where we're getting into some of the first pitchers off the board that are not the big two. Personally, I'm still ideally not touching a pitcher here. I'll tell you when I'm going to draft my first pitcher. We're going to just keep moving along. Just keep scraping along. Scooby-Dooby. Harper. Yeah, we know what he's going to give you. Judge, we know what he's going to give you. Here we go. Here's my guy, Shane. Bieber, I think, is the first pitcher off the board for me. Maybe not, in all leagues, but if I can wait to get a pitcher, that's the earliest I want to do it. I'm still a little, I don't know. I'd still like to stack a few more bats, maybe move down a little bit in terms of the pitching, and then double down on pitching. But, we got Gleyber Torres, Strasburg, another name you'd, maybe consider anchoring your pitching rotation with. Alonso has dropped significantly. I mean, there was talk of Alonso being, top 5, top 10, top 20. Now he's top 30 in ADP. And it's because, and this is the NFBC setup where, it's batting average, not on base percentage, that kind of thing. So you're not going to see maybe what you might see in one of our leagues, the 6 category, 6x6 setups, where you're getting maybe the same, return, like, because he's going to contribute in more categories, obviously, if he's a 6 category contributor. Altuve still there in the top 30. Well, top 30-ish. Marte, Villar. That's like a grouping of like kind of not sexy average and steals guys. I mean, Villar maybe not so much the average, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's just kind of that like it's the end zone of the early 30s. Snell though, I mean, again, I like what I'm getting out of Snell. If I'm looking at a Starling Marte, I'm skipping right past and I'm going to Meadows at 35. Bogarts, you're going to get quality out of your shortstop that late, 36. It's not even that late, but you know what I'm saying. Sale, here's another. Jordan, depending on the league setup, if he has eligibility in the outfield, first base, or just utility, that's where your Jordan Alvarez value comes in. What league, what position availability does he have? So Cubby, I guess, has dropped off. We'll see if he can rejoin me. Now we're getting back into the middle infield tier. I've talked about this in a few polls before. The Mondeses, the Baezes. Yeah, I like Javier Baez, baby. Again, he's going to give you pretty good contributions. Not quite as many stolen bases as you might like. He could do with a few more walks, whatever. So, again, Albies is a guy I like a lot this year. Hira, Marte. If you're drafting Marte for an outfield slot, it's nice to have that flexibility. But if you're drafting him for his outfield eligibility there at 44, you're kind of losing, some of that value. And so maybe, you go elsewhere with that pick if you already have a second baseman or if you're not going to use him at second base. Springer, I think, Springer's getting you pretty good value here. I like him a lot for 6 category setup. I mean, you're not going to be feeling too bad with a guy who's 30 and he's, pretty known commodity. Obviously, the stolen bases aren't where you'd might have liked them to have been 5-6 years ago, but that's that's a long time ago now. And then you got Charlie Blackmon. He's still doing what he does. Stolen bases aren't there anymore, so you're getting a guy who's pretty hot at home and then slow on the road. Still net body of work's pretty good. If you have another outfielder, you can start while he's on the road. But yeah, this right here is the range of pitching where I want to live in, and I have tried to live in mock drafts. This Luis Castillo, Patrick Corbin, Aaron Nola. I mean, I told you I didn't want to pick anything before Shane at 27, and if I can ideally wait for a Snell and some kind of Castillo, Nola kind of thing going on, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's early pitching, and even Giolito at 50, right? Merrifield, obviously, after this year, he's only going to be, more or less a center fielder. So, I think the speed's kind of going, behind. It's going to be a thing of the past for him. Paddock, 51. Not a guy I want to start my team with, but still a nice second or third piece. Same thing for Kershaw, I guess. Not quite too rich for your blood, but if that's your first pitcher, maybe you go for something with a little more upside. Here's another guy who keeps slipping and sliding. All right, so here's a guy who's rising. We got a Stanton. He's rising. And Vlad's kind of holding. He's holding right about, right in that 50s, mid-50s range. But Chris Bryant is like fading and dropping. Fading, dropping, fading, dropping. I don't know where he's going, but if he's just going to keep sliding, I'll take a third baseman that late. Instead of paying for maybe an Arenado or a Devers or a Devers kind of thing. See what you get. Maybe you get a Chris Bryant. Another guy, Eloy, kind of another power outfielder there. I really like that Eugenio is dropping just a scotch. I mean, Eugenio was right there with Stanton. And obviously, this is a famous debate we've had. If Machado is just going to live in this barely in the 60s zone, that's almost free. I think you could do a lot worse than what he gives you for, 2 positional eligibility, at least one more year in a redraft setup. And of course, Severino, he's moving back up everybody's boards. It's like, oh yeah, we didn't forget about him. And Morton, say your watch to that guy. Rizzo, again, 6 category league guy. I love, that on base is through the roof. Otherwise, the power's a little bit light and the batting average is Robles, another guy that, I'm on the fence about. But if he's going to be hitting leadoff and maybe this is, kind of that year where he puts it together at some point, definitely a player I want. Then we got a slew of first basemen here. LeMahieu, wherever he ends up, probably second. Actually, I don't know. Olsen first, Goldie first. Of those 3, obviously, I think you want Olsen. Goldie, we kind of know what's going on there. And then Moncada just seems to keep falling, but Moncada with the little power speed combo, I'm loving that, especially if he keeps falling this far. Hader, first closer, I think, off the board here. I can't do that. I mean, I love Hader, but I just can't do that. And then a little bit more of the all right, let's see. If I have a choice, okay, coming off of injury, Glasnow, Zach Greinke, probably last season or two of good usage. No more Humidor and Chase, or Darvish. I mean, if I got a choice between all three of these, and it's pretty simple. I'm going Darvish. I mean, if you saw his last starts down the stretch last year, some of those 12 and 13 strikeout games, bing, bang, boom. And of course, there's Mr. Slapdick Prospect going to San Diego. Never been a big Pham guy. I don't have anything against him. I just, just not a Pham guy. Older San Diego. Yeah. I'll probably be looking for a Bichette or something instead, just relatively speaking, in that general range. I do like Bichette where he's priced. You're going to get nice little combination of power and speed there, I think. Noah, does he ever put it all together, or is that velocity tick back up? Does he ever get his hair out of his butthole? It's a good question. Muncy, he's moved up, but I still think he's vaguely overvalued. I mean, for a 5x5, which most of these leagues are, his 5x5 leaves a little something to be desired for me. I mean, that's just me. But Muncy gives you cheap 35 home run power. But if you want some cheap 30, 35 home run power, you can get your Jose Abreu here, or just wait another. Get Gallo. Hey, Gallo. I mean, I don't know why you don't. Right? I mean, you can put him in your outfield, Eugenio at third, and you're talking about like pretty much a locked in 100 home runs. That's a lot of dongs, man. A lot of people like Laureano, little power speed guy in the outfield. I think that's pretty much appropriately where he's ranked. Yates, again, still just not. I don't know. I'm still torn about where I'm taking a closer this year. So we'll see. Bauer, I think we about know what he is at this point. I think he's possibly even a little overranked here, but that's still factoring in maybe like 1 or 2 year and a half of good years we got. Soler is, pretty inexpensive here at this point. I mean, when you're talking about 50 home run power, outside the top 75, it's like, all right, I'll take a chance on that. Of course, Semien, just not a guy for me. McNeil, everybody's favorite Mets player. I mean, for that price, with that kind of eligibility, why not? Gary Sanchez, more and more I get down the road with Sanchez, the less likely I am to be like, oh, well, he can hit 35. And just, it's not moving the needle anymore, because really all catchers hit about 230. So outside of the second coming of Pudge Rodriguez, I'm just not that interested. Woodruff, another guy that's moving up boards. Chapman held about steady. Another Chapman who's held about steady. I guess if you've waited this long, 2 closers off the board, and you really want to make sure you got your known quantity locked down, like I'm not jumping on anybody before Aroldis, so that'd probably be where I'm going. Bell, if you want some late first base power. Barrios, another guy I'm trying to get a couple of shares of this year. Just, maybe like a slightly less dominant Greinke. Like you're not going to get maybe the ridiculous strikeouts, but you'll get the quality ratios and wins and stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm going for. Kluber, I'm not really sure what to make of the Klubot in Texas. Again, coming off of some injury, so probably a guy I'm just avoiding generally. All right, let's round out our top 10 here, our last 10. We'll just kind of touch on a few last things and see if we're going to redo this video or not. Paxton, again, if he ever gets more than 150 innings at any plausible level, Sure, like you love the strikeouts while he's healthy, but basically just keep a little Band-Aid hanging around in case. Correa, great price on a high-quality shortstop. He maybe fits the label of injury-prone at this point, but, I mean, not really. He's still young, and he's still got so much potential, and, I got no problem. I mean, when you consider you were probably paying top $10 for him, 2 years ago, getting him barely inside the top 100. You gamble on that. I take a risk for that. Rosario, all power, no speed. Not my cup of tea. Osuna, also not my cup of tea. Grandal, this is a nice catching option. I mean, again, with the dual eligibility and just the DH, and they're probably going to run him ragged behind the dish. So, I mean, he'll have, more at bats than your typical catcher. It's definitely something you like. Anderson. I mean, a lot of guys like Anderson. I'm not a huge Anderson fan, but again, you're getting your little bit of everything there, and for the price, you can't beat it. And there's a handful of players in this next little run here. Nelly, 97, Ohtani, 98, Sonny Gray. I mean, if you're getting that on Sonny Gray, you could probably even let him slide a few picks. 99, he'll probably slide into the 110s. I mean, nobody's like racing out the door to go get Sonny Gray, mainly because there's not a ton of strikeouts, but the strikeouts are relatively effective. I mean, just if you're playing on a Fantrax platform, having the ability to do, Ohtani starting and hitting all day, every day, like sign me up twice. And I mean, Nelson Cruz now, that lineup's just even more stacked. He's not slowing down anytime soon. Whatever supplements he takes or birth certificates he forged, it's the fountain of youth, baby. I don't know. And then Lou Bob, who's the new it boy. Signed the minor league, major league contract before even playing major league games. Lou Bob just on the top 100 bubble there, and Lou Bob is gonna be a pretty special player. Power, stolen bases, all of that. I forget exactly what the projections were on Steamer. There was something like 272 and like 20 and 15. I'm not sure exactly, but they were a little aggressive, considering Steamer's fairly conservative where their, projections are. But that's just kind of a little, little look at the update, where things are at this point in the preseason. Obviously, these rankings are fluid. And again, the thing you want to keep in mind about NFBC, like we're looking at here, is NFBC are leagues that are standard 5x5, roto, 2-catcher, no trades, no injured reserve list, and they're for money. So obviously they have to be fairly uniform and fairly stringent and boring, if that makes sense. But your own leagues with your own player values, they'll fluctuate. This is just to get you a little example, little sample, little excitement, seeing what we got coming up in the next month and a half. And we'll be getting to it. Don't worry about it. We got more mocks coming up. We got all that. You want to get in some? You want to get yourself in a redraft league or something? Just hit me up on Twitter. Come by the website. Do all that whole thing we always do. Website's fantasysportsaddicts.com. Twitter's letter F, letter S, we're double, letter A, FSAA. And I guess without anything else to talk about, because Cubbies players they're all mine now. He bailed. Yeah. Thank you for him for chiming in briefly at CUBBYNOLE, Cubby Knoll. You'll see him in more drafts. Won't even fuss over that. It's not worth it. But fantasy gods, please grant me the serenity to set my ideal lineup, courage to add drop aggressively. The wisdom, as always, to make good trades. Amen. See you guys on that website. Got a new Andrew article coming up. Thank you, Andrew from Fantasy Aid at Fantasy Aid 1 on Twitter. Get that posted as soon as we can. And see you guys next time. See you on the next show.